Welcome to the Courage Accelerator. Here today with Lynette Johnston. We were co-hosting audio rooms on Saturday mornings for a few years, and now I was on her live stream last week. And it wouldn't be polite not to invite Lynette to join me on the Courage Accelerator. And we're talking about courageous leadership on LinkedIn. And as always, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land where I currently am, the Gamaraga people, and pay respect to elders past, present, and emerging. Now, I do an acknowledgement of country because it's out of politeness and protocol. And at the moment, we have an election in Australia, and welcomes to country are somehow making headline news. And I believe it's the right thing to do. And acknowledgement of country and welcome to country are actually just welcoming people to the different lands, because Aboriginal history is there were different lands. So a welcome to country, we're saying you're welcome here. And it's not welcoming people to Australia, it's welcoming people to the land where we currently am and just paying respect. So I'm being a bit courageous, first of all, by getting in the hot button issue that's happening in Australia right now. But welcome to the Courage Accelerator. Please introduce yourself and tell people what you do.
Kia ora, Martin. I'm Lynette Johnston and I am from New Zealand. And it is a pleasure to be with you here today. As you say, you and I have been on live streams before and I've always enjoyed our conversations. And so I'm really very much looking forward to having this one today about courage on LinkedIn. I've been on LinkedIn for a number of years now, and over time I've seen it change and develop and move in new directions. And I think that the discussion we're going to have about courage today is extremely timely, and that we're going to cover some really important points about being able to stand up, have your voice heard, and be counted. So thank you for the invite.
No, you're welcome. I couldn't think anybody better to have this conversation, how to do that on LinkedIn, than yourself. But introducing myself, I'm Martin Stark, the Courage Champion, founder and CEO of the World Game Boxing Championships, author of the book Courage, Your Right Hook. I'm a keynote speaker on courage, and also do it as a consulting practice for leadership development. And I have a product called the Courage Accelerator, which helps leaders define their purpose, develop their courage practice, and increase their impact and also the impact of their team. Now, Lynette last year started doing videos on LinkedIn, and she records them in her garden. Now, so relatable, talking about the seasons and how to flourish and grow in your back garden. Now, you were being very courageous by doing that, by doing more videos. And I think that was your form of courageous leadership. So let's start with that story.
Well, certainly doing videos was courageous for me, Martin, no question, because I really had a mental block to that. Why would anybody want to listen to anything I had to say? I'm no Miss World, I'm an older person, surely people would just turn off in droves. But it turns out that's not the case. People seem to value and really like authenticity on LinkedIn, and by me showing up as my authentic self, warts and all, as I say, in my gardening clothes and out there in the garden, it really shows my humanity. It shows my love of gardening, of course, particularly hydrangeas. You can't go past a good hydrangea, Martin. But I do think that being a bit different, authentic and different, maybe you could be authentically different on LinkedIn, is a really good way to stand out, because we do need to stand out on LinkedIn if we are going to be visible to the audience that we want to reach. And so yes, the garden videos are a fabulous way to do that. They showcase what I love to do when I'm not on LinkedIn, and I relate that back to LinkedIn, so it's not like me just talking about gardening and nothing else. But doing the videos in the first place, yes, was a really tricky move for me. I found it really hard, but now you can't keep me off of Martin.
I believe there are two aspects of courageous leadership on LinkedIn. The first one is your purpose, and the second one is your story. Now, the purpose is wrapped up as your core message and what you do, your vision, and your story is the message, the way you engage your audience, relatability, taking people on a journey from you solve this problem through your thought leadership, through your products, how you help them solve pain point. Customer wants to go from A to B, and you're the C. And I'm saying the C because it's the next letter of the alphabet, but also C because then people get to see what you do. Now, I think if you watch James Bond films, not a big James Bond fan, but any of your favorite films, there's a character, could be your favorite drama on Netflix or Disney Plus. I'm watching Doctor Who right now, program which has been there for over 60 years. But there's a character and you're taking them on a journey. So the character in a film, James Bond, has a barrier, all the fears, overcomes the enemy, takes you on a journey, but you see the purpose straight away. So the first tip and the major tip is to have a clearly defined purpose and message. And through that, second tip is take people on a journey. So that's courageous leadership. 2 tips, your purpose and message and your story. Any thought?
Agree with that. My purpose, I would say, is to help people to understand LinkedIn. So that comes across, I hope, pretty clearly in every video I do. But Martin, you're a master storyteller, and I've learned a lot from you about doing storytelling on LinkedIn. But now I do try to make sure that each of my gardening videos, or any of the videos that I'm doing, really does tell a story. But I do think you need to be very careful that the story that you're telling is a very simple one, because I think it can get too long and too convoluted. Now, at the moment, we're being encouraged to do very short videos, 1 to 2 minutes on LinkedIn. But, you know, I'm not entirely certain that that's right, that's the best thing to be doing, and B, whether that is enough for us to be able to get across the message that we want to in any depth, particularly if we are trying to get across something that has several facets to it, or we want to be seen as an expert or a thought leader in our field. And so I'm going to start doing longer videos. You thought you had enough of me on the short ones. Well, guess what? They're only just going to get longer, because I think that is a better way to be able to share our, to elevate our voice, shall I say, to be able to share a story that really does resonate with people in a bit more detail, but at the same time, keep it to one message. Now, we both have a good friend in Roy Kowalski, and one of his central tenets is to keep it simple, to have one message per post, per video. And I absolutely agree with that. I find it very hard to do that. My content generally serves multiple purposes, and it's a real struggle for me just to keep it to one thing. But I do think that that's important, so that people will go away and remember your message and what you say.
So that simple communication in a series of videos, 1 message per video. And then the longer depths, you can do a longer video. I enjoy watching podcasts or things on YouTube when I find out something more. So that simple message in a series of videos. And I think video is crucial, because I use this analogy a lot. In the days before in days before cable television or satellite television, you'd have 4 or 5 different channels. There was very little choice, and you would watch the news, the 6 o'clock news, and you get used to the news presenter, the weather forecaster, the person who gave the business update. Now we own our news feeds. We decide what we want, and your content can be in somebody's news. What message do you want them to be getting? Do you want to be seen as newsworthy, a message that yet, or it takes a few seconds to unsubscribe? So this is about having your message, which is newsworthy, not it gets in the news. That might be a good opportunity for you, but to be in somebody's news feed to the extent that yes, they see your message. You see a movie trailer, then you see the poster for the movie, you see reviews, you see different connection points. And I think with LinkedIn, about 10% of your audience will see any one of your posts. So 10 posts with a similar message is better than 10 posts, 10 different messages.
And in different formats. So I'd be arguing that you could just do a text and image post, you could do a document post, followed by a video, perhaps, as you're talking about, and a whole bunch of other things as well. And these live streams that we're doing here today, these are a great way to be able to talk about a topic in some depth. And I'm really we're both, you and I, and other friends of ours who are in the audience today, are all over these, because I think that these are a great way to be able to get our message out there. But also, Martin, I think that your point about we create our own news feed is valid, but we are doing more. We are our news feed, right? We are, by putting out content like this, we are creating our own channels, our own cable TV, if you like, our own radio stations, whatever we might want to describe describe it as that is what we are doing by our own content. And that wasn't possible even 5 years ago. And look at us now. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the next 5 years brings. Won't it be exciting? Yes.
And that's where the courage comes in. It's that the leadership, the days only a person with access to something would have the opportunity have been changed.
Yes.
Mobility has democratized thought leadership. Mobility has democratized our access to share our message instantly and connect with anybody all over. LinkedIn is a professional platform, and there are some things which I think are better not to be on. A few years ago, there was somebody, and I remember this post talking about how their cousin's wedding wasn't inclusive because they didn't play cards. Now, it was probably a bit of a joke, but for me, that was just, look, yes, Kylie's great at mine, but really, a message, it's your cousin's wedding. They play their music. So for me, this is about having a message and communicating it in different ways, which are and I think that's where the courage to put yourself, the courage to be uncomfortable in front of the camera, to share your thoughts in a text post or in article form or in the carousels or on the live show like we're doing now. And my definition of courage is taking ownership of fear, moving forward with confidence and resilience, and having the courage to put yourself forward.
I agree. And, I met through LinkedIn via the New York Times podcast, The Daily, a woman who I think exemplifies courage. She was interviewed about the effect of the tariffs on China on her business. She imports a product line for babies and young children that she designed herself from China, and the tariffs were just about destroying her business. She was eloquent, she was an ex-veteran, and she put herself out there at great risk, I believe, to talk about the issue that she felt very strongly about. I reached out to her on LinkedIn. She was only a third-degree connection. I didn't really think she would answer, but she did. We connected, and she told me a little bit more about the story of that. And that then meant that she was able to, on the back of the podcast and having the courage to do that podcast, was interviewed by CNN, and she was able to get her message out there more widely. Now, I do not for one moment underestimate the risk, the fear, and the bravery that it took for her to do this. And I think she did an amazing job because she was so easily able to tell her story in a way that resonated with everybody. Now, that is a skill, Martin. You have that skill. I'm trying hard to develop that skill because it's that eloquence that allows us to be able to use our voice for good. But it's not easy, and it's something that we all, I think, need to probably work a lot harder.
We started out with that simple message, and simple, and grade 8 is probably my recommendation. Use grade 8 level language in your, and possibly even when you're on a video, something that people can easily understand they want more. So I was interviewed by CNN 4 years ago when I was first starting out with a vision for the World Game Boxing. Last year, CBS News were only going to come to 20 minutes to watch the second World Game Boxing Championships, but they saw what was happening and everybody around the whole country, and they stayed for 5 hours. And they reported the final story live, the final bout live. So if you can imagine, you're having an event, a party, something, and you get a big news crew down, you might get 20 seconds. And they're there for 5 hours, and you've seen there's something happening right now, and it's your event. And that was also the power of storytelling and that